weekend from my school to my longhouse. And after an hour or two walking in the jungle, we saw an aircraft passing over us above the canopy. And we could hear recorded voice from the aircraft and also some leaflets that they dropped from the aircraft. But being young and not interested in what is going on, we were all eager to see the aircraft flying past, you know. And now looking back, I wonder what was the message that we heard? What was the message in the leaflet? I do not know. But I can only think of it. Could there be words to celebrate, or were there words of caution? And that was the time when the confrontation more or less started, because you all know the different objectives, different dreams of leaders at that particular point in time. So I will cover my talk with you on these few topics here: background of the confrontation and the context of it, that is the Kelabit Highlands, and a few critical events before the inauguration of Malaysia. And I will tell you about the storytellers who shared with us their photographs and also their own experiences as soldiers. And there will be talk also about the border scouts and the camps. And I think more interesting probably for us here is to know whether there were any combat activities in the Highlands, for which there is, and what are the collateral damage. And then we talk about the community life and significance, which reflect the hearts and minds of the war strategy of the Allied forces at that particular point in time. And hopefully we will have a short video produced by one of the soldiers in 1965, and that will be towards the end of the talk later. This is the context of the talk, the Kelabit Highlands, the battle zone, and you will see the highland actually is the mountainous area sharing the border with Kalimantan on the eastern side, and you'll see the main camps there. The big flag of the United Kingdom is in Barrio. There was a company camp, and then you have four other smaller camps in Palungan at the north, in Pamain, in Pomor, and then Pamain, and then Longbanga way down south. And beside that, there was also a camp for the jungle squads in Kubaan. I will talk later about the conflicts and some of the events as we move on with this talk. Yeah. Now, some events leading to the confrontation. I think we all know that in about a week's time, we are going to celebrate the landing Allied soldiers in Barrio. 80 years of time has lapsed when they landed in Barrio. And soon after, of course, the Second World War ended. And at that point in time, Britain was more or less keen on restoring its own strength in the world, and they were eager to let their colonies rule themselves. And that was the beginning of the rise of nationalism and communism. And in Sarawak, of course, we have the anti-cession when the Brooke relinquished their rule over Sarawak, and there are people who are opposing the cession of Sarawak to the colonial rule. And as we move on, our neighboring leader in Indonesia also had his own dreams in order to create and build a greater Indonesia empire, which will include Malaya and also the British protectorate in Kalimantan, in Borneo. That includes Sarawak, North Borneo, and Brunei, of course. And fast forward, we know that Britain and Malaya aimed to create this Federation of Malaysia, and it was on the 27th of May, actually, when the Prime Minister of Malaya announced in Singapore that Malaya must get ready in order to have a bigger entity to include the protectorates, the British protectorates in Borneo and Singapore, in order to be more sustainable economically as well as politically. But I think we also realized that at that time, the movement in order to get the views of Sarawakians on the formation of Malaysia was undertaken through the Kabul Commission. So on the 13th of March in 1962, when the Kabul Commission went to Marudi, they asked our chief, the Komulu Lawai, and some elders with him, asking, are you ready to support the formation of Malaysia with your region in the Highlands being part of it? And they said they were not ready. So that was the context of the people in the Highlands just before the formation of Malaysia. And by the end of the year, the Brunei Rebellion, led by Azahari, captured the town of Seriak, the old town of Brunei, and also Limbang on the same day, that is on the 8th of December 1962. And about a few days later, they also captured Bukenu and Simuti in Miri. So this rebellion was actually led by Azahari. He was a renegade from the partai that was Partai Rakyat in Brunei, and he was supported by Indonesia. And I think their vision was to make sure that the formation of Malaysia will not be successful. So just bear in mind that when we talk about the confrontation, you have this other group of people based in Brunei that are supporting the dreams of the President of Indonesia as well. And on the 14th of February 1962, President Sukarno announced confrontation in all fields against the formation of Malaysia. And soon after that, there was an attack in Tebeduk, where a police corporal was shot dead, and that apparently was the trigger to the confrontation in 1963 and 1964 onwards. So let me cover a bit quickly on who are the storytellers. This is the first person that have been in touch in order to get quite extensive photographs and information from him. Second Lieutenant Andrew Dewaduri, he was the commander for 4 platoon, first in Pamain camp in May 1964, and then he moved on to Pak Umur camp in about July, August of the same year. And these are the other storytellers that we have. In the middle is Commander 3 Platoon, David Thompson, and further on you have Corporal Jokba, Private John Campbell, whose name until today is called Kelabit Campbell, and Private Jimmy Octaleone, and Lieutenant Colonel John Cross. He was the commandant of the Border Scouts in Borneo. And Corporal John Cartwright was an intelligence officer based in Lobangap camp, and Medic Paul Bostock was also based in Lombanga, but attached to the Gurkha 1617 regiment. In fact, he was here 10 days ago to come and visit us, and he shared a lot of new stories about the people that he treated when he was a medic in Lombanga camp. So Andrew Dewaduri, his platoon has 30 soldiers, and he was the one heavily involved with the moving of the people and all the materials from Pamain to be resettled in Barrio for security reasons. And David Thompson was with Commander 3 Platoon in Paumur at that time, and he, during his time there, was involved in 2 conflicts with the Indonesian soldiers. And he said that he was very lucky to be involved in these conflicts. You know, I think a true soldier will have that kind of fighting spirit, you know. If you don't have a fight with your enemy, your mission has not been completed. I think that is how I see it. And both the commanders and the soldiers just now, they are from the Argylls. They are British soldiers recruited from Scotland. So the military presence in the Highlands, you can see them from the camps that they occupied. Their company headquarters was based in Barrio, and there are 3 platoon camps: Palungan, Paumur, Pamain, and Lombanga. And at the same time, there was a camp for the jungle squad. These are the officers of the air company, led by Major Sandy Boswell. He's right on the left-hand side here. Now we go to the camps, as I have said just now. These are the 2 camps, Paumur and Pamain. I think our soldiers here know very well that in the camp, the choice of the place was very important. In this particular case, they said that when they arrived there, they have no idea where is the best place to site a camp. So they always look for a place that is high, elevated, you know, and can be seen from the village, so that they can protect the village. And also, they will clear that area and put a barbed wire fence around it. And the clearing will be done well beyond the fence itself, about 100 yards away, so they can make sure there is good visibility around it. And inside the ground, they will build and equip the camp with a circle of barbed wire, bunkers dug out, lined with logs, and roof with logs covered in sandbags. So each bunker had slits for returning enemy fire. So when I was a kid, we were able to have access through the kindness of the soldiers. And they even brought us to see how the bunker looks like. It's quite interesting, you know. And looking back at remnants of these bunkers now, brings back a lot of memories of that time for us. And this is the area of Palungan camp and the Lombanga camp on the other side. And apparently Palungan was the most often attacked position in Borneo during the confrontation. 2 were during the time of David Thompson, and when he left, there was also another incursion which made it 3 times being attacked by the enemies. And the camp at Lombanga, you can see there's a very tall tree on the left-hand side there. In the canopy, there is a watch-out tower, you know, so it has a complete view of the airstrip around it, and also towards the river, from where footpath from Kalimantan arrives into the village. And the jungle squad camp just now is based in Kubaan. For those of you who have gone to Borneo, when you fly to Borneo, try to sit on the left-hand side of the aircraft because you have a very good view, which includes these rocky twin peaks as you are just about to land in Borneo. And below the twin peaks is where the village of Kubaan is located. And that's where the camp for the jungle squad was to be. And Pasa Aran was a very brave jungle squad, and he quickly climbed up the rank from sergeant and became an inspector, and he was therefore in charge of the jungle squad, including to train new ones in Kubaan. In fact, he was involved with the group that had a conflict in Gumbang in late 1963 or very early 1964. And he told us the story when we met him in Cebu last December. Okay, the daily routine of the soldiers. So every day at dawn and dusk, the most likely time to be attacked, a patrol would go around the position, checking the wire. We stood to, weapons were loaded ready, bunkers manned. After this, sentries were on duty all night, 2 hours stacked. Every evening, check in by radio to headquarters in Borneo and report our activity and receive any orders. So that's what they do every day, morning and in the evening, to make sure there is safety all around. And our school was just right at the end of the airstrip in Borneo in 1964, 65, and 66. And very often we would see the Beverly aircraft passing by. Every time an aircraft passed by, the children would get out of the classroom just to see the aircraft. You know, the teacher can't do much with us. We are too keen to see the aircraft. And even more exciting was suddenly you see something dropping out from the hind lower part of the aircraft, you know. And again, seeing aircraft in those days was something new for most of us, and I think we just a disbelief in what we see happening around. And they would drop army supplies, and at one time there was an old Land Rover being brought from Labuan to Borneo, and when it was driven along the airstrip, people were wondering, why is this thing cannot fly? They said, it's not good, cannot fly, you know. So they thought everything that they have seen so far have been flying, but this particular one was not able to fly. So as far as they are concerned, it was quite useless. The record of flying in the Highlands during the Confrontation has been very good, except for this particular little incident. A twin pannier landed, but the airstrip was very wet and soggy, so it had no time to stop, and it slipped into the end of the runway into the drain. And very soon, of course, rescue party came over. There was no incident whatsoever, and the plane was boarded off, and any useful items of the aircraft were brought back to Labuan. You can see this remnant in Borneo now. You know, it is a tourist attraction. Yeah. And that was the story behind it. Because you go there, actually not many people can tell you how the accident happened, when it happened, and all that. You know. So the story came from Kelabit Campbell, as I said just now. Now about the border scouts, The local border scouts were some of the best we met throughout our entire time in Borneo. And here in this photo here, thank you, Ming. This is from Ming at the front here. It came into her possession because her late father, who's right in the 1, 2, 3, 4, sitting tall in the front middle here, was her late father, the superintendent of police for 4th Division. And according to Ming, I remember a helicopter landing in our garden in Tanjung Lobang to pick up my father. We all thought it was great fun, not realizing the gravity of the situation. My mother was less enthusiastic. I can understand, yeah, because we were there as students and we were also quite scared because almost every week we would see Indonesian aircraft crossing the border from the east and flying across towards Barrio, and our own military aircraft would chase them out, you know. So that was a regular sight that we see. And he also visited the village, and there she met our first policewoman, Pangeran Lipang Pangeran, in the white shot bottom left photograph. And they also went to a place, a village slightly south of Barrio, which is Ramudu. I say Ramudu because I can recognize some of our relatives with children and grandchildren out there. I think they are attending to their medical needs in Ramudu. And here is our Inspector Lian Tapan, one of our two first policemen, and he is here on the right hand side of the white shirt sergeant at the front row. And the role of border scout was primarily intelligence gathering at the border, and hearing from them when they have been involved in the battles, as we will see later on. They were also actively involved in these battles against the enemies because they were allowed to carry guns as well. And they were not only guides but also spies. Some led patrolmen across the enemy frontier into Indonesian territory. Some mapped the area, while a few others were involved in close range shooting of the enemy. And this is Inspector Lian Tapan. During the confrontation, he was seconded to the border scouts in Barrio, and his role was to be in charge of them, meaning to say he is the commander for the border scouts. And he also led a group of jungle squads from Barrio to Limbang, Terusan area in order to capture this renegade Assistant Lieutenant Sumbi of the Indonesian Army 600 Raider. And the other prominent soldier, a jungle squad, is Inspector Pasar Aran. I think his niece and grandniece are in the room here. And I'd like to say that in 1964, he received vital information that a group of Tentara Negara Indonesia soldiers were preparing to make a raid on Barrio, where most of the Kelabits had been asked to resettle. The Indonesians planned to use their mortars with good effect and to kill not only British troops, but also the many Kelabit inhabitants, and to target the school. He alerted the British Army, who led an ambush which led to the Indonesian retreat. So, well done, Inspector Pasar. Life could have been very different. And here are a few of the jungle squads that I just want to highlight with you. Roland Agan Kapong, he was a headmaster and did some liaison with the community chief. And we have Robertson Bala. He made 3 successful intelligence recce's in Kalimantan and also successfully informed the commander back in Barrio. Later, he was a surgeon. And on the right-hand side is Marang Lugun. He's a veteran of World War II and of course during the confrontation as well. Now he's 96 years old. We were just able to have a good chat with him about 10 days ago to hear the stories about his time as a jungle squad. And below you have Corporal Tamaraman, Boy Scout. What's amazing about him is that he defused a bomb at Raan Mekang where there was a landing zone. And if he had not done that, the commander from Barrio would have landed there, bomb exploded under them. You can imagine what would have happened. And for that deed that he has done, he was appointed as a corporal. And Kebing Radu is a radio operator, and we still have the equipment that he used in his house in Barrio, and we hope to display during an exhibition there next week. Now, these are some other border scouts also at Long Bangak camp. There are more diverse communities. You have a Saban community and a Penan community. And actually at this point in time, the Penan community have just settled down from being a nomadic, carrying out a nomadic lifestyle. And then a Kelabit and a Kenya. So now I want to take you through a couple of the combat activities and damages that were incurred. Okay, back to the map here. You can see the symbols there. The battlefields, the landing zone, villages burned, and army camps, platoon camps. So you notice that a lot of the conflicts were on the border. So starting from the top at Patlungan, the most attacked village during the confrontation. There were 3 conflicts there. All of them were in fact, all the conflicts happened in 1964. The burning of villages, the fighting, and the capture of border scout, they all happened in 1964. So here's a table to show you the casualties, and the ground battles and incursion are in Palungan, as I said just now. In June 1964, 1 Indonesian killed, 1 captured, 5 locals were captured. And in Raan Mekang near the landing zone, 3 locals were captured, 1 British soldier seriously injured, and he was flown to Labuan for treatment. And the other one in the other attack in Palungan was in August 1964, and it happened very early in the morning. So when the enemies left the village, they took their time to go back to the other side, over the border. And with support from the headquarters in Barrio, they managed to track them just beyond the border in Paputal. And there they had a fight, and altogether 6 Indonesian soldiers were killed. And the other one is at Batu Kalong there in late of 1964. I have no documented record of this particular fight, but the border scouts who went to construct the landing zone related it to me, and also the headman in Lombanga also related the same event. And apparently there were 2 Gurkhas killed during that time. So this is the battle reporting at Aro Karamut, Rahan Mekang, east of Pak Umur. 3 border scouts were captured, and they were actually heading home after patrolling the area at the border called Rahan Mekang. And Tamalina and Balayo managed to escape, raised the alarm that Maran Lopong was still in enemy hands. So David Thompson, the platoon commander in Paumo, with support of Major Sandy Boswell, mobilized a helicopter and a tracker team with dogs led by Sergeant Brian Batty. So during the attack, Private Duffy was injured, and when one group was attacked and was evacuated to Labuan the next day. So the tracker team with the dogs were ahead and succeeded in intimidating the enemy into deserting their camp and leaving behind the prisoner Maran Lopong. Of course, the next day, Maran Lopong returned to a wonderful welcome in Paumor. I think that was a story that the people really appreciated. The battle in Palungan, this is the first one in June 1964. A group of 5 men were captured by the Indonesians. 4 were asked to return to the village to find and report back on the presence of British soldiers in the village. And one of those who was present in the village at that time is our YB Datuk Rawat Gala, who was then in primary 3 at the Palungan school. So he recalled that incident by saying, "It was in the afternoon. Someone hurriedly came to the school to warn us the Indonesians are coming. The British Army told us to escape. So we quickly took off from our classroom and went home. We gathered whatever we could bring with us and fled to our farms in Paramain, about half an hour walking. Before we arrived at the farm, we heard gunfire which continued until late evening. An Indonesian was taken captive and 1 killed. We stayed there for a week." So that was the first attack in Palungan. And this is a painting about the second attack, the one that happened on the 2nd and the 3rd of August 1964. It was a painting produced from stories told by the soldiers to a painter, and the painting, a copy of this painting is given to us by David Thompson, which we will put on display in Barrio next week. And in this photograph, the Argyll soldiers were led by Sergeant Batty, who is standing right in the middle there with the gun, think that way. And those at the front were the Indonesian soldiers. So what I didn't really realize at that time was the use of dogs in war. And it seems that in every platoon there is a dog that take out patrolling. So in this particular case, it was the dog that gave the signal to the soldiers to say, "They are somewhere there, you know." And that is how the soldiers got ready and caught up with the Indonesian soldiers. And the battle of Batu Kalong by the border from Lombanga camp, if you see the ridge out there at the top of the photograph, that is the mountain range separating Sarawak and Indonesia and Kalimantan. So the Batu Kalong at the border is right at the top there, where the battle, two Gurkhas were shot in an ambush by the Indonesians. Now, on hearts and minds, Andrew Dewa Duri tells us that, as I understood it, our role was to continue Hearts and Minds campaign with the families in the Longhouse and around, to help them understand the reasons for our presence and to get their support, especially in gathering information. So here you see a Borneo Airways landing in Barrio, and this is a commercial flight. I can still remember this scene, reflecting back now, and people were all rushing to the airport just to look at the aircraft, the plane, and see who are coming back from Marudi, whether Saudara are in the flight or not, and what did they bring back. And it seems to be a time when people dress up, You can see the ladies in their new sarong and their bead cap, and the men as well, They put on quite well woven hats. Now, what is this helicopter called? Is it familiar to anybody? I flew in this helicopter when I was 9 years old because to go back to school for holiday would take me 5 days to walk. So they were very helpful to carry us in this aircraft. And when you are in the aircraft, the soldiers were all holding their brand gun, pointing downwards from the door. They don't close the door, so they will put on a belt on you and sit on the side with them. And this whirlwind helicopter was used for moving soldiers and also supplies to the border areas. And in early 1964, they were also used for resettling the villages from wherever they are, from Pabangar, from Longrepun, from Pamain, Palungan, Patik, and Gubahan, all being moved to Barrio for security reasons. And at the same time, the schools were also being moved. They would take the planks and animals and chicken, pigs, and I don't know, maybe the buffalo and the sapi they were not able to carry. They are now running wild in the old village sites. So that was that helicopter. Yeah, here you can see right at the front here is our education officer, Manson Tuanbi, talking to Pita Looi, who was then the primary school headmaster. They were all getting ready to move all the school staff to Barrio from Pamain. And those are some students in Pamain, I tried to track down who are these students now, because they would have been about 65, 67 years old now. But nobody want to volunteer recognizing them. I thought those photos were very good. Yeah. So when all this moving was being done, you can imagine that Barrio at that time was only a very small village, not even come to 10 families living there, which would make it maybe 100 people. So when all the other villages were moved there, including students, the population suddenly swelled to almost 1,000 within a time of 1 to 2 years. And this is from Andrew Dewa, he said of their time arriving there, no briefing in Singapore prepared us for the reality of the longhouses, their size, the life within them. I remember little of mine, and certainly the Pengulu visited us, as did many other locals. I have one photo of the school's wonderful bamboo orchestra. So this is our bamboo band. You won't believe it. They play the music, Scotland the Brave. You know? I tried to get a video of the bamboo band playing that tune, but I couldn't find one. But believe me, they play it on the bamboo band as well. And British soldiers' experience of Sarawak. Soldiers recall the unique experience of their time in Sarawak as a time of exploration, adventure, learning, and working very closely with local communities. It is argued that the positive feelings they had towards their environment enabled the success of the Hearts and Minds war strategy. British soldiers' sense of self in relation to confrontation was positive, and this emotional inner response to place and person coincidentally mirrored the external official policy to win over the Dayak. So this was stated by Matthew Hughes, whose sister is right here with us, Monica, and yeah, I think that is a true feel of the community as well. You know, the relationship with the soldiers. So this photo here is of John Cartwright with my own brother Tony in Longbanga, and Kenya and Saban, young men and ladies there. And Andrew Dewa himself said, when possible, I would send small groups to Barrio to the Saturday night film show, to which the Barrio Longhouse were invited. But to my lasting regret, I was not at Barrio for the first Highland Games arranged by the company quarters, pitting the Argylls against the Kelabits. And in fact, this was the beginning of the Highlanders game, which has been organized almost every year and latterly once every 2 years. And talking about the film show just now, every Saturday they would invite us students to go and see it. They will put us on the strip behind the white piece of cloth. I remember the cowboy starring was John Wayne, and everything you see was left-handed because we were seeing it from the back of the screen. And David Thompson said, my platoon was lucky to have a number of direct contacts with the Indons, and we benefited enormously on future tours from what we had learned when operating in the Kelabit country. And of course, their main task was to protect the local population from groups of Indonesian soldiers crossing the border to the south, and to encourage and to engage and to defeat any parties that did cross. Now this is a very important event captured in a photograph of two leaders in their own right. On the left-hand side is the Major Boswell, commanding the company in Barrio, talking to the Kelabit chief, Pengulu Lawai, on the right-hand side. And in the middle is Kelabit Campbell. And we want to acknowledge the source for this photograph was from the Argyll Museum in Scotland, and it was taken in Barrio in 1964. So what is said here is that it was an almost unique experience for us all as we were never to forget the time we spent in the Barrio area. Indeed, I have often said that the Kelabits were the only local people whom I met in my entire service who I would happily go back and fight for. I hope there's no more war, so we don't have to see him come back. You know? And anyway, David Thompson spent all his career life as a soldier and retired as a Major General in the British Army. Here you see these three young ladies, and when the soldiers were posted to their new camp, we lined up, and Pungulu, followed by the village headman, came up, and he assigned one family to each jock. Jock means a soldier. I was to be his and his daughter Bulan, my sister. This was a hugely moving ceremony. From that moment, the adoption meant that coming in from patrol, exhausted, wet and filthy, our green fatigues were taken, washed, beaten on the rocks by the river, and returned dry and folded. Then, in contrast from our hill, most evenings came the sound of familiar hymns at their evening service. Hearing Silent Night in August did surprise us. I think it's quite true that we did sing this out of the season, I think. Yeah, we didn't know then, you know. Now a special meal in the longhouse. So the meal, you can see it in those 6 empty plates there, all eaten. Yeah. Soldiers were invited to have dinner in the longhouse of Pa Umur on a rotation basis. This family meal was a real treat for the soldiers. Perhaps there was an egg, a real luxury, or some spinach-like vegetable. I think this is Tangayan, I think. For those who are from Barrio, it sounds like Tangayan, a very slimy vegetable. In return, we could offer something from our compo ration. None of us can forget these evenings, lit by candle or pressure lamps. Every family with their own area, each side of the broad central corridor, wood smoke and the sound of the pigs below. Simple meals, a chopped chicken, rice and a vegetable, once a python, rather like a slice of salmon. Their generosity was unbounded. So, a salmon for dinner, not a python. Then the medic orderly, this one is in Pamain. I have one, this is Andrew talking, and he said, I have one photo of our medical orderly treating a small child with a beaming mother. And that mother is on the far right, is the wife of Garawat, who was later our community chief, Pamancang Iman Ayo. And yeah, when we go to Barrio this occasion, we will stay with her and we will reminisce these stories with her, and it's a good time to reflect on it. And similarly, this routine medical mission is at Long Balong, and the medical orderly is Paul Bostock on the right hand side, accompanied by Border Scout Pasang Murang in the blue shirt. So now we want to see what is the significance of this heart and minds interaction between the soldiers and the people. It was an almost unique experience for us and we were never to forget the time we spent in the barrio area. Indeed, I have often said that the Kelabits were the only local people whom I met in my entire service who I would happily go back and fight for, which I've said earlier, and that is retired Major General David Thompson, whom we met in Eastbourne, England last July, and he was so happy to be able to share his experiences with us. And next, Lusang, standing shirtless on the left, a good friend to us from Long Beruang, bringing his wife and family visiting the camp for medical attention. At that time, they were just beginning to settle from a nomadic lifestyle. Actually, they only settled down in 1961. So you talk about 1962, 63, 64. The huts would be very tiny, round logs. I don't know. Not a room. It's without any wall. The roof is just palm leaves, and the bed are round logs for sleeping on. And here you see local people selling food to the army camp. On the left you see a bucking deer there, and on the right are some chicken, and they are bringing them for sale to the kitchen of the army in Long Banga. We reckon that this is actually the beginning of the local enterprise. And here you'll see our school at the end of the S-Rip, where that wreckage of the aircraft just now sits there now. And you can see here the few buildings. On the far left here, that was the only proper classroom that we had. That was 2 classes there, primary 5 and primary 6. And I was one of the students in there. And our dining hall, boys dormitory, girls dormitory, and headmaster's house. So you can imagine when there's an aircraft passing by, the noise, as I said just now, and the children, the students, all get out just to go and see it. Yeah. And one good thing is that when the airdrop drops fuel, they would always leave behind some for us for the school use, and this will be supplied for our pressure lamp, and also as fuel, petrol for running the generator to pump water for our kitchen use. And this is the army camp as in 1965, 66 and 67. And at that time, Mason Tuanbi was the headmaster of schools in the Baram area, and he said a piece of good news is that the director of education is now in agreement with my suggestion that a junior secondary school should be started at Barrio within the next 2 or 3 years. I probably won't be around to see it, but I'm happy to know that it has been approved, and in the future, Kelabit girls and boys will not have to travel all the way to Marudi or Miri to attend secondary school. That was said in July 1964. So when I was in primary 6, in 1966, after the common entrance examination, our headmaster said to us, as we gather in the classroom before school holiday, we were all thinking that next year we are going to study in Marudi, out of the village. And he said, all of you who have passed, you are not going to Marudi to start your secondary school. Very disappointed we were. I was, yes. After your holiday, come back to continue your studies here in Barrio. A new secondary school will open here next year. We were surprised because there was no building constructed for this new school. Then we were told that we will occupy the abandoned army barracks on the hill across. Our headmaster was Mr. Pong Swee Eng from Kuching. So you can see there the buildings, the abandoned buildings that we occupied. Yeah? Our classroom, girls' dormitory, our kitchen, our boys' dormitory, teachers' quarters, all made of corrugated zinc. Only the floor was plywood, 4x4 or 4x8. And those plywood were later to be transported by us as students in order to rebuild our temporary school near the longhouse. You know? So we spent 3 months building our own school when we were in Form 1 and Form 2. And I don't know how we got this far, having not spent our time in school. So why is this time of confrontation significant? So the idea is, as mentioned, Tuan B has said, for a model village to be developed here at Barrio, complete with school, cottage, hospital, co-op store, sawmill, library, church, pipe water, and possibly electricity. It is hoped to open up 200 or 300 acres of new land to be used for growing rice and vegetable. The plan also calls for a network of cycle paths, and that's what he said in 1964. In fact, today, I think all of this were realized in Barrio because of the big population. It's possible to provide those facilities. And it was also said by Yaya Tala, I would attribute much of the present economic advancement of the Kelabit to confrontation. Young and old were exposed to Western culture through contact with British and Australian military personnel in the Highlands. Planes, cars, tanks, and other military equipment became part of their everyday experience. So you can see here, there's a complete change to the mindset of the people and the community because of the confrontation. And personally, I say that it is a very positive one for us. And for the locals, it was a rare opportunity to learn to use infantry weapons as well as to work together with soldiers from other parts of the British colonies. Cash flowed as local men were employed to be trackers, interpreters, laborers, and border scouts. Women earned money by selling vegetables to the camp and doing laundry. As direct benefits, the school was able to get medical attention for troopers by army doctors. The army treated the school water supply and provided helicopter transport for holidaying people, including myself, as I said. And there is European food on our menu. So the most important asset the school acquired from the army was the monopoly of surplus fuel. And that was said by our late Babalian. The primary school in Barrio was expanded to take in new students, and soon after a secondary school established in 1967. And of course, as I said earlier on, money flowed into the Highlands. As seen from the big cap here, you can see there, those are coins, you know. I think they had too much to spend, so they, or it could be a good way to preserve it. Now, lessons from confrontation. I think this is just thinking at a higher level, you know. We need to value our diverse heritage of the confrontation for its tangible and intangible values to people as individuals, to community, as well as to nation. And I suggest that this be documented, protected, preserved, and promote this heritage in the form of stories and markers, whether they are in the natural or in the created form in the landscape. However they are, these are means to honor and to remember those who were involved in the events of the time. And I suggest here what we could do. For instance, name a road as Warriors Road or Jalan Wira, or name the hill where the camp was just now as Bukit Wira. At the moment we call it Bukit Korea. Actually nobody knows why it was called Bukit Korea. You know? My only guess is that CORPS, core area, used to be the headquarters, the main building where the officers in command have their mess, and that could be the origin of it being called Bukit Korea, core area. Okay, and heritage has a very high tourism value, and we must leverage on it. And finally, Remembrance Day, lest we forget. It's good that our veterans are here and they can guide and advise us. And there are many also in the crowd who are taking this as their personal interest. And I think together we can celebrate to remember those who participated to defend the integrity of our country. In fact, this war is about defending our constitution. So in Sarawak, we talk about the Constitution of Malaysia. We talk about MA 63, Malaysia Agreement 1963. And then we talk about the Cobol Commission and all those. So those are the things that we are fighting for, you know. And I'm sure that having shared the little that I could with you today, we are able to create a beginning to document similar stories in other parts of Sarawak. For instance, in Gombang, where conflict started, in Tebedu, the first fight, and I think the most sad conflict was in Long Jawi, where no less than 10 border scouts were killed, and a few Gurkhas as well. And similarly, in places like Limbang, Lawas area. So if we can get all this documented and put them all together into a book, or even create exhibition for them in the museum, we will be able to tell stories of what our people have gone through in order to defend our young nation, Malaysia, in 1963 to 1966. As you all know, the war ended on the 11th of August in 1966, and we hope that no more wars of that sort will happen in our lifetime and into the future. Thank you very much.
Second Sixth Gurkha Rifles. Resupply of heavy items such as aviation fuel was undertaken by Beverley Aircraft. It was during this time that I went to the jungle border with Indonesia with the Gurkha rifles and a Royal Artillery battery. There were two 105mm howitzers, and they were used to destroy an Indonesian TAC HQ and airstrip. And the Gurkhas went in to recover documentation of use to us. At the end of the operation, the guns were dismantled, loaded onto helicopters, and together with some itinerants with their belongings, we flew back to Barrier. Barrio had a 2-weekly civilian air flight to and from Brunei, and this was always a colourful affair with people meeting their relatives and so on. I was posted to Long Banga in September 1965. It was a remote area, very close to the Indonesian border and inhabited by the Kelabit tribe. Resupply was by Royal Navy Wessex helicopters and RAF helicopters, and ultimately Twin Pioneer landing strip that was finished in October, and by parachute supplies. This is me with 3 baby pythons given to me by local Funan nomadic tribes people. They ultimately got thrown into the river because they became a little vicious. As part of Hearts and Minds, the locals would visit the local RAMC medical centre for ointment and for their ailments, etc. This is a Punan group, family, passing through. And this is me with my border scouts that were allocated to me for interpreting purposes. Here is a bamboo and rope bridge over the River Barham, which is rather swollen on this particular point. This is a local children's sports day in Neomatu. Children chasing a floating apple. And this is the local children's bamboo band in back in Barrio. and their counterparts in Long Banga. Cans of tiger beer for troops of 1st 7th Gurkha Rifles, and several photographs of livestock being handed over to the cookhouse for our meals. This is Central Brigade Commander Brigadier Harry Tuzo conducting an inspection of the troops here in Long Banga. This is the farewell visit of Colonel Hickey, who was the battalion commander, and he was returning to a posting in Kathmandu. This section of video shows a journey undertaken by dugout canoe, which had outboard motors on the end, and we went down the Baram River, visiting over 7 villages en route, where the objective was hearts and minds and information gathering. I would distribute gifts to the local headman, such as transistor radios, fishing tackle and the like, and the medic that was with us would give aid to local inhabitants for small and minor ailments. People crossing the Indonesian border in order to visit relatives would be encouraged to bring back information of use to us in setting up operations against any incursion that might happen. The debriefing of border crossers was a regular occurrence. By this means, we attempted to establish the locations, the type of arms, equipment, strength, personalities, and the intentions of enemy regular and irregular forces. We also tried to establish the activities of local inhabitants on either side of the border who may be helping the enemy. And also local conditions that could have affected the efficiency and morale of the Indonesian troops. These river fish had incredibly fine bones in them, and as regards eating, give me the local deer of meat anytime. The different villages visited have different tribes, either Kayan, Kenyan, Saban, Kelabit, and so on. Most have been converted to Christianity either by the Hellfire and Brimstone Australian missionaries or by Irish Roman Catholic priests. But there still remain a number of people following the pagan religion and who worship the hornbill bird and believe that all living creatures have souls. In other words, animism. A visit to a typical longhouse. Note the medic on the right hand side. Longhouse will house something around 20 odd families with a common area on the outside as you see it. In this case our medic decided he did not like his old tattoo and he decided to do something about it, i.e. burn it off, having given himself a pain-killing injection in the first place. Ouch. This is a local washing machine. Another longhouse with relics from the past, this one with skulls purported to be Japanese soldiers from World War II. And the longhouse waves goodbye. This was Longbanga Longhouse, and here we have people drinking rice wine. They would play their ethnic instrument called the sape, and one would be encouraged to dance the local warrior dance, which caused great hilarity among the rest of the longhouse. In July '66, I was allocated a Sioux helicopter to undertake liaison visits to villages down the Baram River. The journey took 3 days rather than the usual almost 2 weeks by boat. The flight went as far as Longaka village and then went back to Longsan. Longsan has a Roman Catholic mission. I was accompanied by Sergeant Saini of the Malay Border Scouts and Anthony Pasang Murang, who was my interpreter, and they're seen on the photograph with the Sioux and the Roman Catholic mission in the background. These are 2 sisters of the Kenya tribe and their mother. Mother together with father. And back to one of the daughters again. And don't you just love the earrings? And then there was the flight back to Longbanga. And here I am sporting tribal trophies and gifts. And then this is my last view of Barrio in August 1966 because I was medevaced out with infective hepatitis. This is Kluang Military Hospital where I stayed for several weeks and then finally, having come back to Labuan, departed from October 1966 in Labuan and went on to Hong Kong.
That's the end of the video. Thank you very much.
What a wonderful journey we've just been on, of a time that a lot of us can remember in various forms. So, Datu Ose, thank you so much. That was a brilliant talk. Please, another round of applause.